Hi, I'm John Jerkowitz. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself before I begin this process this evening. I'm the owner, creator, and developer of a coaching and consulting company called New Career Creations. I've had this little creation of mine for the past 17 years, and it's a culmination of 40 some years of operations, human resources, training and development, customer service, and executive management. It's been my goal my entire life. It's been my focus. And so this evening, I want to share with you briefly something that'll help you in your career, help you maintain your focus, and help you create some goals that I promise you, if you follow the process I'm going to give you, you'll succeed. Now, the good news is this process is only 4 steps long. And once I'm done, you're going to see how easy it was. It does require one thing from you. That's commitment. But before I get into that, I want to start with a story. There's a man walking through an airport terminal, and he noticed a sign on the wall. The sign simply said, "Your future, 25 cents. Below it was a box with a slot for a quarter. Man walked over, reached in his pocket, put in a quarter. The machine whirred for a few seconds, and out came a slip of paper. "Your name is John Smith. You're on the 2:20 flight to Atlanta." Man looked around, up and down, looked behind the box, on the wall, pulled out another quarter, put it in the slot. The machine whirred again and pushed out another slip of paper that said, "Your name is John Smith. You are on the 2:20 flight to Atlanta." Well, by this time, he was really confused and really curious. And he turned around and he stopped some other passengers walking through the terminal. He wanted to know, did they know anything about this? Some of them hurried away from him. Others scratched their head and told him they had no idea. Well, he reached in his pocket again and found he was out of quarters. But as he'd been walking through the terminal, he noticed there was a newsstand all the way on the other end of the terminal. So he raced back there, broke a dollar, came back with his quarter in hand, looked at the machine and put the quarter in the slot. It whirred again, and out came a slip of paper that read, "Your name is John Smith, and you just missed the 2:20 flight to Atlanta." Well, I think we've all been John Smith at one time or another. At least I know I have. It's a matter of focus. You see, that gentleman wasn't worried about getting to his plane. He was wondering why things were the way they were. And I'm going to tell you that most of the time we lose our focus when we're looking at working towards our goals. Now, I got some bad news for you. SMART goals, you remember them, they're dead. And I'm going to tell you why they're dead. Because traditional goal setting actually undermines our progress towards reaching that process. Okay, enough rambling, enough carrying on. I'm going to share with you 4 steps. And with those 4 steps, I'm going to give you some examples about how you can reach them. Here's the first one. A real good goal is 1 sentence long. Now, here's why. A goal's an intention. You call it whatever you want, but when you go to set a goal, you're setting forth an intention of how you're going to live your life. And not only is it an intention, it's a commitment. It's a commitment to you accomplishing something. And in order for you to commit, and in order for you to set that intention, that goal has to be memorable. That's why it's only 1 sentence long. Because here's the first challenge for you. When you create that one sentence goal, I'm going to ask you to store it in your smartphone or your tablet or your laptop or however you keep track of things. And then I'm going to ask you to set a reminder for at least twice a day. And once you set that reminder, when the alarm goes off, I want you to look at that intention and I want you to say it out loud. Now, can you imagine having something 3, 4, 5 sentences long? I could tell you from my perspective that by the time you get to the third or fourth sentence, you've already forgot what the first sentence was. Out of sight, out of mind. Let me share another little story with you. When I go to work for a business client, when we reach an arrangement that I'm going to do some business consulting with them, one of the things I ask them is, do you have a continuous improvement plan? In the old days, before the turn of the century, we used to call that a 5-year plan. And most of the time they say, yes, indeed we do. And they reach behind on their bookshelf or into their credenza and they pull out a neat, spiffy looking binder that says continuous improvement plan. And they open it up and they show me the fold outs, the charts and the graphs. And I'll say, so where are you at with that? Well, you have to understand that we've had a few challenges thrown our way. So how far into the 5-year plan are you? Well, we're about 3 years and 5 months. And so where are you at as it comes to accomplish something? Well, we like I said, John, we've had some challenges thrown at us. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not throwing stones. But what I'm saying is, can you imagine trying to remember and trying to activate a binder? I actually know some companies that hire people to carry that binder around to remind people what they're supposed to be doing as it relates to their performance. Let me give you another one. How many of us have ever had to fill out a worksheet after our performance appraisals? Action plan. How we're going to improve or maintain our performance over the next year. And I'll tell you something funny. When I used to set a human resource budget, I would take all my development money and put it in the fourth quarter. Because that's when everybody come into my office and say, John, do you got a DVD on time management? Or do you know where I can go to a seminar on interpersonal communication skills? Or what about effective listening? Or do you have anything on this, and that? We can only retain what's in front of us. One sentence long. Okay, so now, John, that's real nice. I've created my one sentence. What's the second part? Well, the second part is that it has to be present tense and in the first person. And here's why. Because all of us, me included, spend a lot of our times letting other people be in charge of our success. So when we set a one sentence goal and we talk about it in the first person, we're already there. I am going to Fiji. When are you going? Well, I haven't bought my tickets yet, but I'm going to Fiji. See, most of the time what we do is we allow our self-talk to get in the way, and pretty soon we're talking ourselves out of that goal. Well, you know, I really wish Joan and I could go to Fiji one day, but it costs $50,000 for a week. And then there's the plane flight, and who's going to watch the dogs? And where am I going to get $50,000 from? You know, this was a really silly, stupid goal. Maybe I should change it to, you know, one of my fantasies is to go to Fiji. Now, I realize that's a pretty far-fetched goal. Okay. And how many times have you and I been in a situation where somebody said, well, what do you want to go to Fiji for? Or you don't want to, you know how much money that costs? Well, that's really silly. I don't want to go to Fiji. Okay. And what we do very subliminally is we let other people be in charge of our success. See, as long as you compare your situation to other people's, you're never going to feel good about your own story. That's why it's important that it's one sentence long. It's in the first person. I am healthy. I am at my ideal weight. I am successful in my career and in my business. I am a great friend. And I'm going to tell you how powerful that can be and how it can affect us negatively. And I'm going to tell you a story about a very successful person I was fortunate enough to coach. And when they came to me, they said, you know, John, I had nothing to complain about. My life's really great. But you know, did you ever have an itch you can't reach, John? Yeah. There's something more. It reminds me of the song Jennifer Nettles sang, there's got to be something more. Got to be something more than this. So when we sat down to talk, I began asking them about their background and how they started the business they started and what did they think was holding them back. And so we talked for a while and they said, you know, one of the things that really bothers me is there's a lot of other people in my age group and in my demographic that think I should be living my life a certain way. I should be doing certain things because they are. And instead, I'm out here running my business, being very successful at a relatively young age. We talked about a few more things and ended up ending that session. When we got together next time, they looked across the table at me and they said, you know, I had one of those aha moments. I said, oh. And they said, yeah, because you see, what everybody else is doing isn't me. It's not my life. It's theirs. And I can find 100 ways to contribute to society other than the ways those people want me to contribute. And suddenly it was like a whole world opened up for that person because they discovered that their I am is very unique and very special to them. Okay, so now we got it one sentence. We got it first person, present tense, not I hope to be, I am. Now here comes one of the tricky parts. Let me change the slide here. What you want to do is you want to live like you're already there. Not what you want to leave behind. I think one of the most destructive statements in the world is, I can never, or I could never. Or, you know, John, that'll work for you, but it won't for me. And that becomes really, really difficult. See, you can't be influenced by what other people think you should be. You have to become focused on what you are becoming. Our past is just a place of reference. It's not a place of residence. Look, I'm not saying you forget your past. Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that when you get ready to set a goal, you get ready to set an intention, there may be things in your past that you may want to avoid, but they can't be roadblocks or ditches for you to fall into. When we set that goal, one sentence long, first person present, we're saying, this is what I'm becoming. It's not what I left behind. And you know, I got another story for you. I'm full of stories. About 10 years ago, I was fortunate enough to work with a gentleman who was receiving a promotion into executive management. Company hired me to come out and spend a couple days with him, kind of prep him for this big promotion. Had worked with this company since he was 18 years old, worked his way up the ladder, and he was a general superintendent. And the general manager of the facility had retired, and they wanted to put him in that job. Now, the real challenge is, and this was a railroad, that the railroad ran for, about 100 miles from stem to stern. And so he had spent a better part of his career traveling up and down the rails. It actually started his career as a locomotive engineer. Now, I had met him once before, so when we gathered for lunch that afternoon, there wasn't a whole lot of let's get to know one another. We kind of launched right into it. And I noticed all during lunch he was very, very nervous. And he leaned across the table and he looked at me and he said, "Johnny, this ain't going to work." I said, "How come?" He said, "I am scared to death." I said, "That's natural. Everybody is." "No, you don't get it." He said, "Johnny, these guys have known me for over 25 years. They knew me when I kind of avoided the rules. They knew me when I kind of took shortcuts. And now I'm going to be the boss of bosses. It's just not going to work. I've made too many mistakes." And you see what he was doing is he was living back in what he left behind, not what he was about to come or become. So I'd done something I never done before, and I will probably never do again. We were in a restaurant, and there were about 30 people. It was a lunchtime crowd, and I stood up, and I took my knife, and I banged my water glass to get people's attention. I said, "Excuse me, would everybody in this room who has never fallen flat on their face, made an absolutely huge mistake and fool out of themselves, would you please stand up?" And a couple people looked around like, am I on America's Funniest Home Videos? A couple people laughed. And I stood there for about 5 seconds for effect, and I sat down, and I looked at the man sitting across from me, and I said, "You see, you got all kinds of good company. There's not a soul on this earth that hasn't been where you've been. Don't let your circumstances and situation affect what you do moving forward." Okay, let's recap just for a second before we move on. So now I'm going to make that go one sentence long. It's going to be first person. It's going to be in the present. It's going to reflect on what I'm becoming, not what I'm leaving behind. Because when I start to do that, what happens in your mind when you think about those things? Because that moves us to the fourth one. And really, our fourth objective is use words in that one sentence that describe an action smoothly, quickly, emotionally. Because when you do that, you're beginning to paint a vivid picture in your mind. Now, see, that thing that sits between your ears, it's the most sophisticated computer known to man. And it does what it's programmed to do. So when I start talking about I am walking every morning, I am walking every morning with purpose, with emotion. I am walking every morning quickly. I am walking to be healthy. I am healthy. Variation on a theme. Pick the one that applies to you the most. Action words. Right? Because what happens when we create action, we begin to create that vision. So let's recap, shall we? One sentence long, written in the first person present tense. Do what you're becoming, not what you're leaving behind. And use words that describe that action smoothly, quickly, and emotionally. My goal for you today was that I want to give the people watching this video a tool that helps them claim success in their lives and their careers. Because that's what I do. So if you'd like to know more, you can email me at john@newcareercreations, or you can find me on the web at newcareercreations.com, and you can contact me that way. If you'd love to talk, I'd love to spend some time getting to know you. Love to spend some time simply understanding where you're coming from. Now, I'm going to leave you with three things as a bonus. There are three things I really, truly believe. That first thing is always remember that you are worth all the effort you put into yourself. Secondly, that you deserve to be successful. And third, you are who you hang around with. So, for me, John Jurkowitz, and for all my faithful viewers, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care now.